Administrative separation boards are traditionally used if a service member commits misconduct, a lower level misconduct that's either a pattern of misconduct, think you late to formation habitually. Maybe you've disrespected a NCO or an officer habitually. That's what they're really designed to be used for, to administratively separate a service member from the military, or if you do what's called commission of a serious offense, but a serious offense that typically doesn't warrant the level of a court martial. So it could be a lot of different things, what is considered a serious offense. But that's what they were designed to do, is something a level that's below a court martial. So we're not talking about a criminal action necessarily, or maybe it is a criminal action, but one that doesn't warrant a criminal prosecution. It's a way for a command to separate a service member and give them still due process before their separation. That's the way they're designed, and that's what they're intended to be utilized for. But what we're seeing now is a gross misutilization of these administrative separation boards. But before I go into how we're seeing them misused, just so people understand the background of it, not everyone is entitled to an administrative separation board. You have to have served for a certain amount of time, or there needs to be certain consequences, which entitle you to have a hearing before a board, or as the Marines Corps would say, would rate you a board. Number one, if you're enlisted, you have to have 6 years of service. If you have less than 6 years of service, you are likely not going to be entitled to an administrative separation board. Number two, or if the command is seeking to administratively separate you with an OTH or an other than honorable discharge. Either one or the other will entitle you to an administrative separation board. And just to be clear, there are three types of administrative separations, and there are two types of punitive separations. So everyone thinks there's only an honorable or a dishonorable. That's not true at all. At a court martial, you can get a bad conduct discharge, or the big chicken dinner, sometimes people say, at least in the Army, or a dishonorable discharge, and those are punitive. Those can only be done through a court martial. Administratively, there are three types of separations: the honorable discharge, which everyone's aware of, the general under honorable conditions discharge, which gives you a lot of the same VA rights and benefits as an honorable, although you're going to lose your right to your GI Bill or your post 9/11 GI Bill. Or the third type of discharge is called an other than honorable discharge. And the other than honorable discharge takes away the majority of your administrative rights, including likely your rights to VA disability, although there are a lot of caveats to that we can talk about in another video. But generally speaking, if the command is seeking to separate you with an OTH or an other than honorable discharge, or if you have over 6 years of service, you're going to be entitled to an administrative separation board. Okay, now what that means is, if you've committed some misconduct that warrants separation, at least the command warrants separation, they're going to notify you, saying what's called the basis for separation. And that could be anything from, like I said, it could be habitually late to formation. Maybe it's a drug. Maybe you popped hot for a drug test, not cocaine or methamphetamine, but maybe you popped hot for Delta 9, THC, something that is, I guess, relatively minor in the world we live in, but you still can't do in the military. Those cases are typically aren't prosecuted, but they're dealt with at an administrative separation board. So if they'll give you the notification, and either on that notification, if you have over 6 years in, you have a right to go to a board. And again, if you have a right to a board, almost without question, you should be going to a board. You should not be waiving your right to a board if you're entitled to one. Or if the command recommends an other than honorable discharge, saying the command is recommending you are discharged with an OTH. And most of the services, if you have less than 6 years in, they don't want you to have a right to a board. And so they'll recommend a general under honorable conditions discharge. So you're separated, or what they call fast tracked, out of the military without a board. However, our beloved Marine Corps, which you've got the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor flying behind you, they will almost always give an OTH recommendation, because there's not a lot of middle ground in the Marine Corps. And so often, as we see service members or Marines with less than 6 years of service are entitled or rate an administrative separation board.